G'day team. So I'm always talking to people who lack self-confidence or confidence and seem to be paralysed or at the very least inhibited or hindered by self-doubt. So like anything, there's no 3 or 4 step formula that works for everyone. There's no absolute protocol that's faultless and flawless and works in every situation. So I'm going to give you my thoughts on it and tell you how I have dealt with that over the years. And yes, so self-doubt has been an ever-present reality for me, that feeling of being not good enough, that feeling of being a fraud, that emotional state of not having the confidence to do things. But where I have found a shift, or where I have been able to grow my confidence or overcome self-doubt with certain tasks or skills or I guess responsibilities, is in the doing of things that scare me, the doing of things that are unfamiliar, the doing of things that are hard, the doing of things that if I left it purely up to just what I wanted to do or enjoyed, I would never do those things. But I have the understanding and the awareness that when I do this small thing that's uncomfortable, maybe having a conversation with somebody or doing a presentation to 5 people for 5 minutes, then that little kind of tick and that little win, even if it's not an amazing outcome, but I survive it, what happens is there's a bit of shift, there's a bit of cognitive and emotional shift, and a little glimmer of light comes out of the darkness, and now I start to feel a little bit more confident. So for me, I set up my first business, my first proper bricks and mortar business when I was 26. It was terrifying. I lacked confidence, I lacked skill, I lacked experience, I lacked everything that I should have had. But you can't overcome what you won't step into or you won't acknowledge. And you can't get good at the thing that you're not doing. So how do I get good at business? By first being bad at business, and that's why I was bad. How do I get good at speaking? By first being bad at it. How do I understand social media? But by stepping into the space and doing the thing that I do. And of course it's lumpy and bumpy and I fuck up and some things work and some don't. But over time I've started to learn the language and I guess the science of social media, so I can do things like this and use this platform to create connection with people. And so for me, it's been a life of stepping into spaces that were unfamiliar, inconvenient, uncomfortable, and at times borderline terrifying. So same thing when I went to university for the first time in my life at 36. I was literally double the age of most of the students in my year. Most of them were 18. I was 36. I was a fish out of water. I was from an understanding, awareness, and technical point of view, I was the stupidest person in my course. But I can't get a degree in exercise science without showing up. I can't build skill without first being the dumbest and then improving and then putting myself in that situation. So I'm a big believer in how do we build confidence? We build confidence by doing things that we haven't done, by stepping into a process, a role of responsibility, a skill, and perhaps not being good at it or proficient or efficient initially, but learning. And when I do the thing, when I wrote my first book, you can see a bunch of books, and I've written more than that. When I wrote my first book, which was that kind of bluey one, you can see, that is a terrible idea, me using my finger. But when I wrote that first book called Fatitude, which was nearly 20 years ago, not everyone, a lot of people said to me, you won't get it published, and I went, well, all right, well, I'll write a book. If I haven't got a book, I can't fucking get one published. So I'll write a book and then I'll figure out the rest. And that's what I did. And then the other one kind of over here, which is called Your Perfect Body, that was published by AFL Publishing or Jeff Slattery Publishing, which was the improved version of this one. And but how did I get this one published by Penguin? Because this one up here, hang on, there it is, that one, that went really well, and they approached me, but But when I wrote the first one, the blue one, and the other one is the Angry Ant, but when I didn't have the skill, I didn't have the understanding of what it was to be an author, what distribution was, what publishing really was, what creating an audience really meant, what creating connection with people via that medium meant. But how I learned that over time is by first being shit at it, and then putting myself in the process. And with that comes a reduction in self-doubt and self-loathing and that feeling of fraudulence, and an increase in confidence. So I guess my long-winded message is just start doing things and be okay with initially being a bit scared, being a bit uncomfortable, being a bit incompetent, and looking like a goose. Who gives a flying fuck? You can't get good at the thing you're not doing. You can't get strong without training. You can't build physical, mental, or emotional resilience and resistance and power and strength without putting yourself in a situation which facilitates those things, which demands those things. When I get mentally and emotionally uncomfortable and I just deal, I become stronger. When I go to the gym and I work against the resistance of weight, I become physically stronger. It's the same process and the same principle. Hope that helps. No pressure. Go and be amazing. Love you guts.